This adventurous story begins by showing the time of AD. It was the moment when the mighty Roman Empire's army was conquering territories from all sides. They wanted to establish their rule over every kingdom. That's why the king of that era formed a massive army. The surprising fact was that this army had never been defeated. The army had more than soldiers, and having such a large force was considered extremely powerful in those days. But the Roman Empire's king and his army decided to attack Britain. They believed that if they captured the northern parts of Britain, the rest of the region would gradually fall under their control as well. However, when the Roman army reached that territory, something strange began to happen within the British Empire's domain. A few days later, news spread that the entire Roman army had mysteriously disappeared. There was no sign of the king either. So who was behind this? And who was protecting the British Empire? These questions remain unanswered to this day. For now, the remaining Roman soldiers at that moment held on to their power. They even built massive walls around their territory to prevent attacks from various types of enemies. In this way, years passed by. Now, we are shown a new king of the Roman Empire, Marcus. This entire rule once belonged to Marcus's father. But after his father's death, Marcus inherited the empire. The truth is that Marcus's father was the same king who had led the army to Britain many years ago and never returned. Since that moment, his son Marcus was the rightful heir to the empire, but everyone was waiting for him to become capable. Now that Marcus had grown up, he had to take charge of the empire. No matter how grown up he was, Marcus knew he wasn't very powerful. Still, to carry forward the empire his father had left behind, he arrived to assume power. Upon entering the territory, Marcus meets one of the commanders named Ludo. Ludo was responsible for training all the empire's soldiers. After learning everything about Marcus, Ludo announced to the soldiers that Marcus was their new king, and that it was their duty to follow his commands and rules. But strangely, most of the soldiers didn't take Marcus seriously. They had expected a highly experienced king who could manage the empire skillfully. Marcus experienced this firsthand. The soldiers didn't respect him much. But he wasn't ready to give up. He wanted to carry forward his father's legacy. Marcus was very kind-hearted. He believed that in addition to protecting the empire, the people should be provided with proper resources. So he took good care of everyone. Although the soldiers started to obey Marcus's commands, they still didn't see him as a true king. This clearly meant that Marcus would have to prove that he was worthy of being their king. His father, after all, was known for his bravery. Gradually, Marcus began to learn everything. One night, while everyone was standing near the wall, Marcus couldn't sleep. He went straight to Ludo, who was standing nearby. Suddenly, Marcus felt something was wrong. He quickly warned Ludo to stay alert and ordered the soldiers to be on high alert as well. It seemed Marcus had sensed that an attack was coming. And soon enough, it happened. Suddenly, an enemy jumped over the wall and attacked. As soon as this happened, more hidden enemies emerged from the nearby bushes. This was clearly their plan, to launch a surprise night attack. Fortunately, Marcus had already stationed his troops. The soldiers began to fight the enemies with precision. Marcus, despite being the new king, could have easily hidden in the palace. But instead, he used his skills to help in the battle. Thanks to the coordination and Marcus's leadership, the soldiers were able to defeat all the enemies. At that moment, the soldiers realized that Marcus truly had something special. He had just begun his rule, yet he already showed the qualities of his father. At sunrise, we see the battlefield filled with the dead bodies of enemies. Sadly, some soldiers from Marcus's own army also lost their lives, which deeply saddened them. But in small battles, sacrifices are inevitable, and Marcus knew this too. Now, he felt that everything had settled down and there would be no more battles ahead. But that was his misunderstanding. The soldiers of the British Empire, who were once their enemies, had secretly planned something big, something that could bring down his entire kingdom. A little later, when Marcus and his companions looked to the other side of the wall, they saw many of their security guards and soldiers captured. These were some British rebels who had risen up against them. Marcus couldn't let his men die like this. So he broke his own promise, the one he made that he would no longer participate in any battles, and began preparing his soldiers for another major battle. In fact, even Ludo tried to convince the king not to go through with it. But Marcus didn't listen to anyone. He made a simple plan, explained it to his soldiers, and set out to rescue his captured comrades. No matter how many British enemies were hiding in the forest, Marcus was not going to back down. He would save every last one of them. This was the moment when his soldiers realized how much Marcus valued each and every one of them. That's the mark of a great king, someone who prioritizes his people above himself. Now, Marcus didn't hesitate. He jumped straight into battle alongside his soldiers to fight the British forces on the ground. A brutal battle followed. Even though Marcus was exhausted, he contributed equally to the fight. First, they targeted the nearby British enemies so they could rescue their captured soldiers. After freeing them, the British troops began to weaken. Following Marcus's orders, all Roman soldiers launched a unified attack and drove the enemies away. In fact, at that point, they all realized that victory was within reach. By strictly following the strategy Marcus had given them, they not only won the battle but also rescued their fellow soldiers. But then, more enemies began arriving from the forest, this time riding in horse-drawn carriages. This was an additional plan Marcus hadn't anticipated. Yet at that moment, all of Marcus's soldiers stood by him. They regrouped and continued attacking with full force, successfully neutralizing even the most dangerous plans of the enemy. In that moment, Marcus truly felt like a king, just like his father once had. They had driven out the enemy forces, but suddenly, one of the horse-drawn carriages ran straight over Marcus's body. In the chaos, he was severely injured. Marcus was hurt so badly that he needed urgent medical treatment. Before losing consciousness, he began having visions of his father, memories from when Marcus was a child and his father was the sole ruler of the Roman Empire. When Marcus awoke, he found his uncle treating his wounds in a safe location. His uncle informed him that he had suffered serious injuries, his leg was badly wounded, and he might not even be able to walk. He would need days of rest before fully recovering. This uncle was his paternal uncle, his father's relative. Some time later, Ludo came to visit Marcus and told him that several weeks had passed since he had arrived there. This meant Marcus had been unconscious for many days. Marcus began to worry, his empire needed him, and he was just lying there, recovering. This was something he couldn't accept. But after listening to his uncle and Ludo, he realized that rest was necessary. Once healed, he would return to his kingdom. To lighten his mood, they took him to a battleground where two fighters were engaged in a match. In reality, captured British soldiers were often brought here, not just for entertainment, but also to be punished. They were made to fight others in the arena. Now, another British soldier was brought in, and he was challenged to fight a much larger man. It was obvious that the British soldier wouldn't survive. Marcus watched this entire fight very intently. But then comes a moment when the large fighter is about to kill the British soldier. That's when Marcus steps in and stops the fight. He doesn't want the British soldier to be killed in such a way. In fact, Marcus wants to talk to him, he wants to know where the soldier's courage comes from. As the fight is halted, the British soldier is brought before Marcus. His name is Aska. Aska immediately asks Marcus, "Why are you saving me, even though you're a Roman? You should have killed me right there, that's what I wanted. Everyone sees us Britons as enemies." But Marcus, speaking calmly and positively, explains, "I have no enemies. I want to change this mindset completely, as a good king." After hearing these words, Aska's thinking begins to shift. Right there, in front of Marcus, Aska promises, "You saved my life. From now on, I will protect you, and fight for you against whatever dangers come." Soon, several healers are summoned to treat Marcus's leg injuries. It was critical for him to recover quickly and return to his empire to lead his people. Marcus was healing slowly, but he needed a faster recovery. Various types of healers were brought in to treat him, and as a result, his recovery began to accelerate. After some time and practice, Marcus was even able to walk a little. All he wanted was to recover quickly and return to his empire. By this time, Marcus had developed a strong bond with Aska. Aska had promised Marcus that he would always protect him like a loyal servant. Marcus, in return, had begun to trust him completely. The two of them would go hunting together and catch several wild animals. In a way, Aska had earned Marcus's trust, more than any friend ever had. One day, when Marcus and Aska return to their hiding place, they find two guests already waiting there. One of them is named Cloudy, a consultant of the empire, and the other is an astrologer who used to advise on many matters of the kingdom. Both had once been close friends of Marcus's father. Marcus and Aska join them, and the group begins having dinner together. During their conversation, the topic of Marcus's father comes up. Cloudy comments that Marcus's father was a coward. He says that although he made plans, when he took the entire army to North Britain, he never returned. His planning must have been flawed, or perhaps he wasn't fit to be a king. Hearing this, Marcus begins to get angry. He couldn't tolerate anyone speaking against his father. And the truth is, he still vividly remembered the position of North Britain, the place where his father had taken the army and vanished. Marcus wanted to know what exactly had happened there, what could be so dangerous that an entire army never returned. In fact, Britain didn't even have a force powerful enough to counter such a massive Roman army. Then how had all of this happened so many years ago? Marcus felt it was necessary to uncover the truth. After thinking deeply, Marcus decided that he would travel to that northern region of Britain himself. He wanted to prove that his father had not been wrong, that something truly dangerous existed there, something capable of destroying even the greatest empire. Marcus's uncle and Ludo tried to convince him otherwise, warning him that the place could be extremely dangerous and that he shouldn't go there so recklessly. But Marcus had already made up his mind. He was ready to go, with Aska by his side. He trusted Aska completely and believed that he would protect him at all times. However, Marcus's uncle once again tried to reason with him, saying, "You're trusting a Briton. What if, once you cross into their territory, he turns on you and kills you?" But Marcus had no other option. He had to prove that his father was never wrong. So without worrying about the consequences, Marcus set out with Aska. The two had a long journey ahead, toward the north. Their first task was to cross their own territory, which was heavily fortified along the border, a massive barrier they had to pass. That border was originally built so that no enemy could attack their empire. After crossing several mountain ranges, Marcus and Aska finally reached the border. Many Roman soldiers were stationed there, and they tried to warn Marcus, saying that anyone who ever crossed to the other side had never returned. But Marcus ordered them to let him go check it out. He also said that Aska would accompany him, the one who was now going to be his protector. They were granted permission and crossed the border, entering a vast and eerie forest. The forest itself looked terrifying, and strange, haunting sounds echoed all around. As they moved further in, they noticed several dead bodies hanging from the trees. Where did these bodies come from? And who had killed them? These questions remained unanswered, but would soon be revealed. Aska stayed close, protecting Marcus. But it was uncertain when the enemy within Aska might awaken, whether he might suddenly turn against Marcus and attack. After all, the Roman Empire was now left vulnerable. Its king, Marcus, had entered a dangerous zone where no one was allowed, and now, perhaps the game of death was about to begin, a game Marcus had never even imagined. That night, they stayed in the forest and began talking to each other. Marcus learned about Aska's family, how much he had endured as a child. Both his mother and father had been killed in war. He had lived alone ever since and was raised in an orphanage. Marcus began to show sympathy toward Aska, so he wouldn't feel bad about his past. They supported each other throughout the journey, hoping to soon reach their targeted location. Marcus was determined to uncover the truth behind what had happened to his father all those years ago. But the horrors waiting ahead were far beyond what he could have ever expected. By morning, they resumed their journey, moving closer toward North Britain. While traveling, they started sensing that someone was following them. Aska discreetly signaled Marcus, and just in time, they avoided the ambush and counterattacked. Had their coordination not been so sharp, that attacker could have killed them. Somehow, they managed to kill all the enemies. These attackers appeared to be part of some tribal group. It was clear now that the forest was also home to tribal people who hunted and killed humans. And ahead, they might have to face even more of them. But Marcus had made a promise, and now there was no turning back. They continued their journey and began asking local people for directions. Once they got the right path, they crossed more mountain ranges and moved toward their goal. Now, the moment had come, they reached the region of North Britain. After thoroughly searching the forest area, they found many Roman soldier shields lying badly broken and scattered on the ground. This confirmed that this was indeed the place where the Roman army had vanished years ago. Marcus's father had been one of them. Marcus grew even more alert. He needed answers. But before he could say anything, someone suddenly attacked him. Aska rushed in to protect him and placed his sword to the attacker's throat, ready to kill him if he made a single move. But then the man claimed, "I'm a Roman soldier myself." His name was Kyle, and he had been surviving in the forest for many years. Because Kyle was Roman, Marcus spared him so he could prove his innocence. Kyle then explained, "I've been stuck here for years." The number of years matches the time the Roman soldiers vanished. That confirmed that Kyle had likely been part of that vanished army, and it was possible he knew the truth. Marcus began questioning him. What happened to his father and all the soldiers? Kyle began to tell him everything. At that time, we had the greatest army. Our only enemy was the British Empire. So we made a plan to attack North Britain. But everyone forgot about the cursed forest that stood in between. There were some ancient tribal people in that area who attacked us. Perhaps those tribes were in alliance with the British soldiers. Together, they had set a trap, and our entire army got caught in it. In fact, Kyle also revealed that Marcus's father, named Hadrian, had made a foolproof plan, but it still failed. That's why so many people had lost their lives here that no one could even count. Some Roman soldiers who surrendered and joined the tribal people are still alive. But the rest were brutally killed. Marcus was now furious with those tribal people. Whether his father was still alive or not, that could only be known by going to the tribes. So Marcus asked Kyle where exactly these tribal people were located. Kyle said clearly that the one who actually had this information was Aska, the British soldier traveling with Marcus. He knew about all this very well. Marcus was shocked to hear this because Aska had been with him from the very beginning, and if he knew all this, why hadn't he told Marcus before? This sparked a big argument between Marcus and Aska. At one point, Aska directly told Marcus, "You are our enemy. You killed many of our soldiers. So how can I help you?" Marcus had trusted Aska so much, but now it turned out he was a complete traitor. The two lunged at each other and tried to kill one another, exactly what Marcus's uncle had warned him might happen. The fight between them grew intense, but suddenly someone interrupted them. It was none other than the very black tribe Kyle had talked about. The tribe had surrounded them from all sides, staring at them intently. Their clothing and appearance looked truly ancient, as if they were born in that forest and would never allow anyone to spread terror there. Surprisingly, the tribe didn't attack right away. But once they learned that Marcus was the king of the Roman Empire, they were furious. Aska knew their local language, so they didn't harm him. But Marcus was caught very roughly and taken to their tribe. Aska, on the other hand, was given special treatment, as he belonged to their territory. Gradually, everyone in the tribe found out that Marcus was the Roman king, the one who had murdered many of their people. Every tribal member wanted Marcus dead. But first, they wanted to see him suffer, so they requested that he be kept imprisoned for a while. At one time, Aska had also wanted Marcus to be caught. But the way Marcus had treated him changed his thinking completely. For the first time, Aska began to feel something for his enemy, Marcus. Marcus, however, was treated terribly. No one gave him any respect. The entire tribe spent the night celebrating, as a new leader was being chosen, a position earned after years of effort. The tribe members enjoyed and later went to sleep. During that time, Marcus tried to escape. He first woke Aska and asked him to come along. But suddenly, Marcus found an eagle emblem, a symbol of his father's soldiers. It was important to retrieve it so the entire empire would know that Marcus's father wasn't a coward. He had given his all to save his men. But when Marcus tried to take the emblem, the head member of the tribe woke up. That head member's men began attacking Marcus and Aska. Marcus also saw his father's ring on the tribe leader's hand. He needed that ring, so he brutally killed the tribe leader. By morning, the rest of the tribe learned that their leader had been killed, and Marcus and Aska had escaped. They immediately declared that both must be caught and executed. Marcus had been badly injured during the fight. Aska helped him hide in different places, because, after all, he knew the ways of the tribes. They knew exactly where their prey was heading. They would find him very soon. Aska had hidden Marcus in a safe place. But Marcus himself said, "You go now. Save your life and take this symbol back to my kingdom." Marcus even freed him from his servitude. But Aska, like a true friend, refused to leave him. Soon, the same tribal people started arriving there. Aska left the place, but shortly after, it was revealed that several Roman soldiers were coming with him. These soldiers had been gathered by Kyle, the ones who had been scattered around the area. Now, they were all standing with Marcus, ready to take revenge against the tribal people. Before long, the entire tribe showed up, and Marcus, like a true king, ordered his men to attack. Fierce fighting broke out on both sides. But since the Roman soldiers had weapons, they had a clear advantage. One by one, they started killing the tribal people. In the end, all the tribe members were wiped out. Many Roman soldiers also lost their lives. But Marcus finally got what he came for, the symbol that would prove that his father was not a coward. Marcus and Aska returned to the palace with that symbol, and when everyone saw it, they were shocked. They finally learned the truth. And this is where our story ends.